Hello and welcome to another episode of Empire at Lore. I'm Keelhalt. I have a microphone that doesn't work, and there was a helicopter flying overhead very loudly. Bomis Koori is actually a system, not a planet. And it's a system with multiple Korvar colonies in it, but when you're talking about Bomis Koori, you only really mean the fourth planet, Bomis Koori 4, because that's where everything important happens. It first appeared in the Genndy Tartakovsky cartoon from 2003, The Clone Wars. Not the 2008 one. I can't show footage of it except in very small edited amounts, so you're going to have to watch it for yourself. However, it is uploaded for free on YouTube, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. So if you want to pause this video and go check that out, now would be the time. Anyway, I'm going to jump right into it. This comedic scene is the only official appearance of Bomis Koori 4. Unfortunately, aside from the fortress itself, all it really shows us is dust clouds, murky skies, and rough, gray terrain. From a certain point of view, there is a second appearance of Bomis Koori 4, but I'll get to that later. For now, let's start with the history of the world. Bomis Koori 4 is noteworthy for being the last stand of two different villains, Oro Dassyne and Prentioch. The Korvar Oro Dassyne was an acquisition specialist for the Corporate Alliance, and he loved using persuader droid tanks against, well, anyone who got in the way of business. So when the Corporate Alliance went to war as part of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, Dassyne was all too eager to fight. Promoted to general by Pascal Argente himself, Dassyne was anxious to see action. Happily, he was soon sent to oversee the Korvar colony worlds of the Bomis Koori system, which were renowned for their droid production and just south of the core worlds. How Dassyne fared isn't really elaborated on, but it's worth noting that while he used his position to grift a significant amount of personal wealth, he never lost his taste for the front lines. Even after sustaining an injury to his cranial horn, something considered embarrassing in Korvar society, Dassyne simply got himself an oversized mitre to cover it and continued to fight. On Bomis Koori 4, he built a fortress of impregnable might and eagerly awaited the Jedi armies, anxious to see them break on his defenses. To his shock, he was attacked not by an army, but by two Jedi moving too quickly for his defenses, and they brought down his shields, leaving his fortress vulnerable to the Republic bombardment. Dassyne perished in the chaos that followed. What? In the Adventure Journal module, The Kaal Connection, players act as New Republic diplomats who must secure a food supply contract at an extravagant casino resort on the ocean world of Kaal. Competing with them for the contract are a number of individuals, including former Moff-turned warlord Prentioch. Shortly after the Emperor's death, Prentioch quickly established his own Prentioch domain through sheer force of domineering personality over weak-minded underlings. But his progress was halted when he came up against the forces of rival warlords. Throughout the module, the players will periodically be harried by low-grade bounty hunters. If the players catch one of them, the bounty hunter will immediately confess they were hired by Prentioch when questioned. However, even if this doesn't come to pass, one of the Moff's incompetent aides will rather obviously report on the bounty hunter's progress publicly in the casino, much to Prentioch's annoyance. So, one fun thing about this module is that just before the bidding war, all of the bidders are going to play Sabacc together. But before that, there's a good bit of waiting time, and the players can go visit the different people, like the competitors, the auctioneer, etc. And they all have different quirks and playing styles and reactions based on if they win or lose. Prentioch, if you go up to play with him, he immediately starts insulting your character and asks who the hell you think you are trying to beat him at a game called Trin Sticks. In the DM notes, it says, Prentioch has no idea how you play Trin Sticks. And what's hilarious is that all these different characters have a gambling stat, meaning they have like different chances of winning, and they're mostly pretty decent at it, some more than others. Prentioch has no gambling stat. So if your character has even the smallest amount of a gambling stat, you can beat Prentioch at trend sticks, and you can actually win a ton of money off him doing this, which is just hysterical. And what's funny is that it notes that even before he goes off to place the Sabacc, just before the bidding, it says that Prentioch knows even less about Sabacc than he does trend sticks. And so he's basically just here to lose a lot of money. And then, yeah. So that's one of my favorite details about this campaign. All that to say, in spite of his bluster and wealth, Prentioch is a very cheap man who does not hire good help. So, unsurprisingly, despite how badly Prentioch needs Kaal's resources for his own stunted campaigns, when it comes time to present competing offers for the food contracts, he makes an extremely undervalued offer. What happens next should probably be its own video, though it probably won't surprise you to learn that Prentioch, for all his antagonism, is not the main threat of the module. Prentioch comes up here and there after the Kaal Connection, but he's never directly shown again. Having squandered so many resources on unsuccessful campaigns against his rivals, and failed in his gambit to secure more resources on Kaal, Prentioch is eventually beaten back and forced to endure a siege by the New Republic. Though he was a low priority compared to taking Coruscant, Admiral Firmus Nance of the New Republic's First Fleet eventually rounded on Prentioch, defeating him at Bomis Koori 4. Though unlike Dassyne almost 3 decades earlier, Prentioch was captured alive and, presumably, tried for his crimes by the New Republic. Taking all this into consideration, Bomis Koori 4 is in all likelihood a relatively barren world, perhaps a bit war-torn, and almost certainly featuring numerous factories. That said, I did mention a second appearance of Bomis Koori 4. In 2012, this image was included in The Essential Guide to Warfare, simply labeled, "A group of Jedi and clone troopers study their latest objective." However, a year earlier, in 2011, this image was uploaded as a preview for the EAW mod Star Wars Clone Wars for the map Bomis Koori Fortress. So in a roundabout way, this screenshot is a dubiously lore-accurate portrayal of Bomis Koori 4. Though, as you may have noticed, it doesn't really show or tell us much beyond what we already saw in 2003, save for more or less confirming the barren landscape and validating the use of EAW's turbolasers as props. Though EAWXs have been remodeled by Rhino. One thing to note about the Corporate Alliance is that they are, curiously, probably the most underrepresented of the major CIS factions. We don't even have an official logo for them. Because of this, I chose to use Dassyne's colors to decorate the one in-base landing zone. There's no information regarding if his uniform was in official Corporate Alliance colors or not, but him decorating a fortress in his own style seems on brand regardless. So I'll leave that up to your own interpretation as to whether or not these are Corporate Alliance markings or just Dassyne being extra. Past the playable base area exists a subway station, and beyond that, even more guns and factories. The cartoon makes Dassyne's fortress look like it might be one large facility covered in guns, so I wanted to sense that the structure continued past what was immediately visible. But the factories don't just sit behind the fortress, their structures wrap around the left and right sides of the map, with train lines eventually extending into the southern mountains. When it came to the natural terrain, the map is actually on an uneven but relatively smooth slope, requiring attackers to travel uphill towards the fortress. Color-wise, I initially went for a rocky gray and dusty brown color palette, but even with diverse texturing, I felt this looked a little too plain. To remedy this, I introduced a bunch of dark rocks for some visual contrast in the foreground. And the fog is set to a soft blue-gray color, which creates a nice contrast when looking to the horizon. Additionally, while I wanted the world to feel barren, I didn't want it to feel completely lifeless, so I added sparse, dry, brown vegetation. Since Anakin and Obi-Wan are seen riding mounts, possibly Kaibucks, I opted to add some wildlife in the form of small green banthas and black birds. To spice things up further, I also added touches I thought seemed appropriate to a war zone. Blast craters and wrecks to act as natural obstacles, military hedgehogs that stop all but the smallest vehicles, creating infantry-only areas filled with sandbags and camo cover, discarded tires and wheels scattered here and there, echoing battles past, and roving searchlights pointed towards the skies, seeking airborne enemies. While there are capturables out in the field, the fortress itself features 4 capturable turbo laser towers along the wall, in addition to the ones granted by the base defense structures. With enough investment in defenses, Bomis Koori 4 can be a difficult world to take, but only if the defenders invest in it. Anyway, that's going to do it for Bomis Koori 4. Be sure to like this video if you think you could beat Prentioch and Trinstix, and let me know how many Jedi you think it would take to defeat Dassyne. Please look forward to it.